in Chicago. So that's where it really started. I started out right out of college with a publishing company, then went to education. So I worked for Loyola University, Chicago, and Medical Center for a bit. That's where I got my graduate degree in organizational development. From there, we actually relocated out here to Phoenix. I worked for a healthcare company for a bit as their vice president of organizational development, then transitioned to UTI, Universal Technical Institute, for-profit education, and was the vice president of organizational development there. And then from UTI, I went to a company called Total Transit, which was a 30-year-old transportation company. Smaller in scale, had a couple hundred employees at the time when I started. And probably about 6 months after I was there, a couple little disruptors you might have heard of called Uber and Lyft hit the market. Again, a transportation company. 70% of our revenue was coming from our taxi line. So it was discount cab. If you've been around the valley, they were the little lime green Priuses you'd see everywhere. 70% of the revenue was coming from that product line. About 20% coming from public transit, and another 20% coming from NEMT, or non-emergency medical transportation. And so when that disruption hit, so this was really about 2013, 2014, we really kind of had to scramble to figure out how strategically we were going to respond to this kind of disruption, because Uber and Lyft just simply had a better mousetrap, right? They had a better way of transporting people than the traditional ways. And so what we decided to do at that time was to take that NEMT business, the non-emergency medical transportation, spin that off and create a startup with those contracts and build it from scratch. And so we used the 70% revenue coming from the taxi line, the cash cow at that time, to really seed and feed that growth of that startup. And now that company is over $200 million revenue company, really kind of taking it from the ground. And when I say we built it from the ground up, it was everything from what are we going to name it? What are the core values? What's the mission of it? Who are the first 3 employees of it? And really just building it from there. And then what processes are needed along the way, at the beginning, later down the road, and really kind of building that. When we had that off the ground, and we had sold the legacy business in 2019, it was then time for me to start looking at, okay, that was a lot of fun to build that company and scale it for growth. I want to go do that again, in maybe another disruptive field. And so that's how I ended up where I am now at BoldLeads, which is a portfolio company of Providence and PSG, Providence Strategic Growth. And so I've been there 2 years. I started there in August of 2019 as their COO. Again, highly disrupted industry and growing quickly. And so how do we take kind of this mom and pop company that was created? It was bought by private equity about 4 or 5 months before I got there. So they were really looking to bring in the next level of leadership that would take it to the next level, and scale and grow it for another exit in the future. Awesome. I love this world, and the reason why is because your impact is immediate. I was used to being part of a larger organization where, in order to move the needle, you needed to create presentations, and you needed to get buy-in, and you needed to go on a roadshow amongst various levels of leadership. And so when I first transitioned into a smaller company, my natural instincts before I made a move was to kind of go through that laborious process, until people were like, why are you doing that? Just go do it. If you think that's the right thing, go do it. And I was like, right, I can do that now, right? And so that was really kind of a major shift in my thinking. And then once you begin moving like that, with more agility, with more flexibility, with more urgency, I don't think you can go back, right? Because you see the immediate impact that you can make on a daily basis. With people, you can move things, you can change processes, you can experiment with things, right? And you just have so much more velocity that you're working with, and you're accomplishing so much more. And so that's what I really see as the difference between working in kind of a larger corporate organization versus a smaller company, or even a startup, or a kind of a growth phase company, is that it's the impact that you get to make and the time you get to make it in. For me, it revolves around process, strategy, right? Like, there are certain core tenets that you have to have, whether it's a large corporation or whether it's a small startup or a growth stage company, is that you really do have to be clear on what your vision and strategy is. What goals are you trying to achieve in the short term, in the longer term? What's your purpose, right? What is your value to your clients? What are you trying to disrupt? Being clear on what that is, as well as then what processes you need to put in place to organize it, right? So that you can align everybody in the organization, the people that you bring on. They're all aligned. They're all rowing in the same direction. They all can see, the horizon and where you're headed as an organization. People can make changes in a day. They can experiment. They can try things. But overall, even in a startup or a growth stage company, you need to be able to know where you're headed and why you're headed there, so that you don't have people veering off in a bunch of different directions. You have some kind of organization to the chaos. I think it really is the ability to see the fruits of your efforts. And so people in large corporations work hard every day. Startups work hard every day. Growth stage work hard every day. But it's being able to see the immediate impact of that. The ability to affect change in a timely way. I think sometimes in larger organizations, your efforts can feel like they fall into a black hole. It's larger corporations move on a much slower time frame, where some of the initiatives that you may be proposing or putting forward, or ideas, may shift by the time they even get through kind of the approval channels and stuff. But with a smaller organization, you're really able to, there's just an appetite for change and innovation and movement and constant evolution that I find pretty addicting. I would encourage other corporate leaders to really take that experience that you've learned in larger organizations and bring it to some of the smaller companies, because I think it's a win-win. I think it's a win-win for the leader, because they really do get to sit at the table and not just affect your function, but affect the organization, right? From the beginning of the funnel to the end. I think in larger corporations, you get kind of pigeonholed into your functional specialty, whether it's operations or sales or marketing or IT, HR, right? And in a smaller organization, you get to play in all of those worlds, right? As a leader in the organization. And so it's not as siloed as it is in some corporate organizations. And then it's a win-win for the company as well, because they get to learn and experience, because smaller companies are trying to get where you've already been. And so they get to experience what you've experienced in your career by bringing that, gift to the organization, and it being part in education that you're bringing to the smaller organization as well on how to grow and scale. And because you've been there. And so I really do believe it's kind of a win-win for both corporate executives as well as, smaller companies. don't try to control your entire career. Don't try to control it all. Don't try to see it all. I think it really, when I look back on my career, it's about living in the role you're in today and being the best you can be at it, learning as much as you can, and then being ready for the next opportunity. So I think earlier in my career, it was about, well, I'm going to work here and then I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and realizing that you can't do it, but even if you could, you might not want to do that, because there are opportunities that come across your way that it's, instead of saying, why should I take that role, that job, why not say, why shouldn't I take that job or that role? It might not be part of your plan, but there might be a reason that that opportunity has come to you that you can't see in the moment, but you're definitely going to see it in hindsight. And it's about learning and growing and evolving your career and your skill set along the way as you take advantage of opportunities that present themselves to you, even if you can't control it all and see it all from the beginning.